And so we can end up with 4 million fewer jobs this year, according to Moody's, a Wall Street firm, and it could take a year longer to return to full employment if we don't act and don't act now.
Still, a fourth stimulus check has been at the top of minds of many Americans this year. More than 2.8 million people have signed the Change.org petition, calling for the federal government to provide $2,000 in monthly stimulus payments. The federal government has distributed 3 rounds of stimulus checks, the first being sent out in March 2020, in the early days of the crisis. And that gave us a $1,200 stimulus payment.
Damage the Republicans have done by restoring balance. And we do it by passing the Judiciary Act of 2021 to add 4 seats to the court, to create a 13-member Supreme Court.
And the third round of payments were distributed in March 2021. Now, fresh off a House vote to advance the $3.5 trillion blueprint, Democrats must now draft a massive social spending package. And it's a major point of contention for everybody. Taxes. President Biden and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are interested in enacting infrastructure legislation this year, but face challenges in figuring out how to pay for it. Before Democrats pass the packages, with likely unanimous GOP opposition, they are facing some internal disagreements over how to fund it.
I think going below $75,000 for an individual or $150,000 for a couple, the issue is that there is some spillover. If you have kids, that families making $250,000 or $300,000 may end up getting some assistance, and I think we can eliminate that.
Likely a collection of tax hikes on the wealthiest Americans, investors, and large companies. Biden did propose a 28% corporate tax rate, higher than the current 21% level, but moderate Democrats like John Manchin are already uneasy and say they would prefer to see a rate of 25% instead. We have a lot of news to go over in today's video, so you want to be sure to stay until the end. In this video, everybody, I'll be going over the very important stimulus check information that I want you to know. So in 2021, changes on the US child tax credit system mean that most qualifying families are able to receive half of the 2021 child tax credit money, all in advance. And that's before the other half of the sum is received in 2022 during tax season. As part of the American Rescue Plan that they passed in March, Democrats increased the maximum child tax credit payments, and parents can now claim in 2021 $3,000 for each dependent.
Fortunately, Nancy Pelosi and all of the Democrats voted to tie them together just last week when we went into Washington. They feel their management of situations. They want to reward themselves with this $5 trillion as well. They passed H.R. 4.
Democrats have made extending this policy a centerpiece of President Biden's $3.5 trillion Build Back Better agenda. But despite its success, Democrats are only proposing to extend the expanded child tax credit through 2025 at the latest, because the annual cost of continuing the current expansion will roughly double after related policies from the tax law expire.
Mr. President, in this moment of unprecedented crises, the Senate must respond through unprecedented action. The budget resolution we are debating today is simple and it is straightforward.
Millions of families will receive $300 stimulus checks from September 15th, and so far the IRS has sent out more than $30 billion in child tax credits in the months of July and August, with the majority of these payments being direct deposit. The next payment dates after September are October 15th, November 15th, and December 15th. The monthly payments can be managed with the IRS online portal, where you can check the status of each installment. Taxpayers could also choose to either deduct the cost of specific expenses from their taxable income.
Through and to drive through the goals of his progressive Democratic lawmakers here to push through that $3.5 trillion in spending?
I think so. I would certainly imagine so, that the trust in the White House is highly diminished. And so therefore, there are some members on the Democrat side that are saying, hey, maybe we need to take another look at this. Fortunately, on the Senate side, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin have stated that they're not going to be for the $3.5 trillion.
Or claim a standard deduction. That was the same for everyone. The GOP tax law temporarily repealed personal exemptions, but increased the child tax credit. doubled the standard deduction, and created a $500 non-refundable credit for non-child dependents.
Department of Transportation to renew an energy declaration to provide flexibility on how many hours a truck driver can drive. Most people don't know there's a limitation on the number of hours you can be on the road. The Transportation Department is broadening that emergency declaration to include transportation of gasoline and other types of fuel as well, in addition to medical supplies and food. In addition, the Environmental Protection Agency has approved emergency waivers for Louisiana and Mississippi that will expand the supply of gasoline that can be sold in those states and increase availability at such a critical time. These actions should help reduce the risk of gas shortages and price increases as a result of the hurricane. We also know a lot of people lost cell phone service because their particular carrier's tower went down or got damaged. A few days ago, I asked the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, and my White House team to work with the cell phone companies to allow customers to use roaming services. So that means that folks in the area should be able to get a signal no matter what carrier they're with. If their one carrier's down, they can roam and use another carrier they're not part of, they're not signed up with. Just think of the sons and the daughters and the moms and dads, the loved ones trying to reach each other, and the feeling of fear, maybe something happened, and it's just because they can't, the cell phone's not working. Think of the millions of people reaching out for help. This is important and it's critical. Now, a lot of private companies and public entities are doing their part. Today, I'm calling on insurance companies not to evade their responsibility to keep the priorities they made to their customers and the promises they made, and help some folks who are hurting. Here's the deal. FEMA is providing critical need assistance, for example, to help with a hotel bill you're racked up because you couldn't stay in your home during the hurricane. The Department of Housing and Urban Affairs, HUD, is also offering assistance to families in impacted areas. But right now, we're hearing reports that some insurance companies may deny coverage for additional living assistance expenses unless the homeowner was under a mandatory evacuation order. So people pay their insurance premiums. They're supposed to get payments from their insurance companies for relocation costs. But insurance companies, in the face of the strongest storm since 1850, say, no, we're not going to pay you what we owe you. Because the fact is, parishes in Louisiana, like New Orleans and St. John's, issued a voluntary evacuation order at first and may not have even had enough time to make a mandatory one as the storm moved in so fast.